Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Neutrality Studies. Today, I have the great honor and privilege to be joined by a Georgian colleague, Konstatin Zhgenti, who is actually one of the founding members of a new political party in Georgia. And I mean the country of Georgia in the Caucasus and not the state in the United States. Konstantin co-founded United Neutral Georgia. So it's the first party in Georgia that officially rallies for a neutrality of the state. And Konstantin is here to describe this to us. Konstantin, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Could you maybe start a little bit with yourself? Like, what is your biography? Where are you coming from? And why did you co-found this neutrality party?
As of my career, by education, I'm a historian orientalist. And from the University of Tbilisi, Georgia, Faculty of Oriental Studies. But then, from the first day of regaining our independence, I'm in Georgian, I was at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from 1989, even before first our independent elections, several months before. And then I was for 33 years there in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and quite a lot of positions there. The last was the director of the political directorate. And then I was first the deputy ambassador in Italy, and then ambassador in 5 countries, Austria and Hungary, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. And at last, I retired last year. I was ambassador in Kuwait, ambassador of Georgia. And that's all. After this, now I'm retired, and as you mentioned, one of the supporters and founders of our party, United Neutral Georgia. And why? I want to explain this. Just everyone, I think, who is interested in politics knows that for the successful development of the country, economic, political, all kind of development, the first of all country needs security. And especially such a country as Georgia is, and such a place as Georgia is, and such a little country with not strong military, political, and economic possibilities. But, now, especially last 4 or 5 years, a little bit more, but especially this period, according to these changes, global changes in the world and in our region and nearby regions, it's clear that no any political or military political organization like NATO is, or European Union is, cannot give us this security. We were always looking for the security umbrella for small Georgia. And our government and previously were thinking that the NATO is such a organization that can give us this security umbrella. But now everyone hears and knows that what's going in NATO, and even the members of NATO, some members openly are saying that NATO is not going to give any kind of security umbrella to such countries like Georgia is.
Mm-hmm.
And from the other side, what's going in the European Union, and I cannot say that, the European Union is, going to something like this to the end, but the processes are that inside the European Union, the countries are divided so deeply and openly. The leaders of some European Union members are saying this, that also the membership of European Union, first of all, we needed this from point of view of the security umbrella. The European Union is not such a military political organization like NATO is, but also the membership of European Union, we need for some guarantees for our successful and peaceful development. And it seems that there is nobody in political, or there is no country, there is no super state or some other countries nearby who can give us these security guarantees for our security development. And we think that neutrality, if we announce this, but not only announce, but we will prove this with other countries, neighboring countries, leading countries in the region and global forces, that we are not going to be the member of any political, military political entity, which are now, and always in our region, by the way, they were always, I don't want to use the word fighting, but, they're looking for their presence and influence in our region, I mean, South Caucasus, and the wider region also. So we think that if we will follow neutrality and explain this, why we want this, and it will be the more suitable for our secure development, economic development, political development, democratic development, and so on. So this is shortly.
I congratulate you to that, because, in the quest to create NATO as a deterrence to enemies, the people who think about deterrence tend to forget that if you only have friends, you don't need deterrence. And the neutrality strategy is kind of catering to that. Let's make friends with everybody and enemies with no one, thereby being safe by only being good with everyone. Now, the difficulty is, of course, that the international environment is not just made up of friends. And Georgia, in fact, at the moment, doesn't have diplomatic relations with Russia because they are occupying two of your regions. However, your party seems to argue that there still is a way to be neutral and to approach this neutrally. Could you maybe give me a little bit of your thinking on that approach?
You talked about Russia. Of course, we hear that the first demand of Russia about Ukraine was, demand of neutrality of Ukraine. Yes. If in the previous period, the Ukrainian government will think about this and a little bit talk with Russia. I'm not going, to go deeply in Minsk agreement and so on and so on. But from the Russian side, the main idea was that Ukraine must be neutral. This is the so-called, we don't like a lot of people here, this near abroad. But we are this near abroad of Russia. We like this or we don't like this. We are. And of course, such a superpower like still Russia is, maybe, someone is thinking that it's the declining superpower, someone is thinking that not, but the fact is that they are one of the leading powers along with the United States and China. And in the situation of the multipolar world, where the leading powers are, looking to the ways of, to talk with each other, to have agreements with each other, and, to decide the kind of contours of the new international, architecture, global and also regional, because, what happens globally, it always, had its reflect in Georgia and South Caucasus and Georgia. And what goes in Ukraine, more also, it's our near abroad also. So this our idea of to be neutral. It helps us to explain this, not only to the superpowers, that we are not going to be the member of the one team or another. I mean, the kind of organizations which are in which they are leaders, I mean, the superpowers, and they are in some case confronting each other in some regions of the world. We want South Caucasus to be the region of cooperation, not the some pressure or fighting for the more rights here and what to do. Of course, we know that Russia is thinking like United States is thinking according this Monroe Doctrine or Dunroe Doctrine, which is now that the America is their backyard. The Russia is also thinking we don't like this. I'm repeating, but practically it's near abroad of Russia, and Russia wants the kind of influence in this region. But when you are going to be the member of NATO or such organization which is, openly confronts Russia in this, of course, your security possibilities are not so high as if we, I think it's clear. And because of this, if Russia will hear that the Georgia is going to be neutral country, it will help us to reach our main goal peacefully, to rebuild our territorial integrity and to begin the kind of movement and negotiations with Russians, with Abkhazians, with so-called South Ossetia. It gives a more possibility than as the NATO member, for example. And as for European Union, okay, still our government is saying that their goal is European Union. But what kind of European Union? Every one of us, this new so kind of flag of European Union with their leaders, and written there, European Soviet Union. So if the European Union is going to this way, to be the European Soviet Union, I think that there is no place in such European unions for such a country like Georgia is. So,
I mean,
yes, please.
It's just very ironic that, at the moment, the European Union is the foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, was born just like you, a Soviet citizen, right? And
Yes.
apparently she has brought a couple of those ideas and ideals into that new union. So out of one union into the other. And maybe we don't need to talk about it that much, but the fact is that for Georgia, it is important to have some form of working relationship with Russia, some form of working relationship with the EU, some form of working relationship with the others, right? So why are you forming a new party to do that? And how is the general mood in Georgia when it comes to this neutrality issue, beyond just your circle of people, but in the broader population?
Everyone, a lot of people who are interested in Georgian politics and politics in our region, and especially in Georgia, they know that some years ago, I mean 10 years ago or so, the most of the population of Georgia, and they supported this during the elections, want to be member of European Union, more than 80%. But we but we are sure that the situation is changed so much, especially last 4 or 5 years, during the last 4 or 5 years, that these figures now are not correct, That's why our party is demanding to ask the people one more time to have a plebiscite or kind of, they ask people, do they still, so many people in Georgia want to be the members of European Union? And we are sure that the figures will not be, in the favor of those who want to be the members of such kind of European Union. But the other point is that from my point of view, and I think the other leaders of our party will agree with me, that the quick changes in European Union, we cannot wait. Because the so-named Old Europe. I mean, Germany and France, and now the Great Britain is not the member of EU, but one of the most important countries in Europe. Changes there is very difficult to expect in the way that, like for example, in Slovakia or in Hungary or in Czech Republic or even in Poland. Old Europe is old Europe, and the quick changes there, from my point of view and my colleagues, we cannot expect so soon. So we are a little bit, in the situation of, to choose what to do. And we think that neutrality is one of the possibilities, for a country like, for state like Georgia is, to reach these, goals. What I said before, for our peaceful, successful development, economic and political and democratic.
I mean, I completely agree with you. And just let me make this completely transparent. I think your analysis, I agree with your analysis, and I agree with the strategy. But the problem most likely is not that Russia wouldn't like this, but the problem is that we already have voices in Europe who strongly condemn this approach. I'm just looking at a homepage from the Jamestown Foundation, jamestown.org, and there are several negative publicity about you. One saying, Georgian Dream, and that's another party, that's not your party, that's the government party. Georgian Dream publicly defends Georgian sovereignty while making concessions aligned with Russian demands, advancing a neutrality narrative that weakens Euro-Atlantic integration, normalizes Moscow's influence, and so on. So the people on the EU side and on the NATO side, they interpret Georgian neutrality as hostile. And this is also just a fact. We cannot change that. It's a stupid way of looking at it, but that's how they look at it. How do you think that Georgia and your party can communicate with the Europeans to calm them down in one way or another?
Now it's obvious, and a lot of, even inside European Union are speaking about the influence of leftist liberal globalists, and mainly the NGOs which are financed by them in the different countries, who are trying to show that the situation in this or that country is quite different than it is really there. Such a country is Georgia, for sure. Because, not only USAID, but some other NGOs which were financed from outside, they were doing such a job, to say so, here in Georgia, to show not on the population in Georgia, but outside, especially in Europe and some other countries, that the Georgian government is doing some awful things, that they are, working with Russians, that they are avoiding sanctions, and so on and so on. No, we think that, by the way, during all history of Georgia was successful as an independent state when Georgia's leaders or heads or even kings had the pragmatic politics with their neighbors, pragmatic politics with the big, huge countries or states which were fighting for our region and for influence in our region and in our country. During these periods, when we were trying to do this, Georgia is a small country, and we had no, even historical and not now, such possibilities, no military, no political, some other possibilities, to defend ourselves and to show. But we have diplomacy. We hadn't have diplomacy. We haven't had relations with the neighbors, first of all, the inner circle, then the far neighbors in our region, then the superpowers. At that time, all times, it was Russia, the Ottoman Empire, and Iran were fighting always for our territory in our region. Now later, it was Soviet Union and the West, and we were the part of the Soviet Union. And as you correctly said, that I am the Soviet-born and educated men and living there during the Soviet Union, like Kaya Kallas, by the way, what you mentioned, and some others in the Baltic republics, in the former Baltic republics, who are now teaching us and forgetting from where they are coming.
Yeah.
And here,
I'm sorry. It's just like it's so ironic to me that the people from the Baltic states who said we fought for our liberty from the Union are now telling others
sure,
from the same who got liberty from the same union, you have to join the
sure.
new union, join the union, or else. It
Yes,
shows that there's no conception, right, of what happens around some people.
I agree with you, but sometimes it's not ironic; it's funny. Even to look out there what they're speaking, because we are trying, and especially, and our government, by the way, they're trying to have the pragmatic policy. And while Georgia is playing more and more the role of the country as a corridor from the east to the west, from east to Europe, and we always were, and our new relations with China, strategic even relations, and the goods which are coming even from China through Central Asia, through Georgia and Azerbaijan, then to Europe, they are more and more. And this way, this road is developing every year, and we will try to continue this. And this pragmatic policy towards all our neighbors and the parts of and the countries from the east, and the relationship with Europe, and playing our role of this. By the way, this Chinese initiative of the one way, one
belt,
which
one
is
road.
one belt, one, which is for us very important, because the goods still, not still, but more and more are coming from China, and through Central Asia and through Georgia to Europe. And we are going to continue to do this. And our neutrality, our peaceful, pragmatic policy will help to be successful in this.
I find that a good idea. And, in a way, it seems to me that the question of geopolitics today is not so much one between left and right and ideology. It's more between those who aim to create walls and creating, for instance, transforming Georgia into a wall, rather than the others who say, like, no, we need to be a bridge. We need to connect, and we need to connect
Yes,
all sides. So the neutrality
sure.
approach is the one to create a bridge. The other one is to create a front, right, against the enemy. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on how you think Georgia can be and historically was a bridge?
It's very strange that countries which were going to destroy the wall, Berlin Wall, and to destroy the wall in Europe, and to have the contacts, now are going, as you said, to build the new wall in Georgia. So it's not it's unbelievable to think that from those countries, the same countries, European countries, and when now they are speaking more about the continuing of the war and not the peace in Europe, in Ukraine, mainly, it's very strange, because if if you want the policy of to unite the cooperation of the West and East, North and South, between the superpowers, between the regional countries, then to building the walls, it's to say very, very calmly, strange.
It's
Not
this
still strange, but it's unbelievable. I cannot understand this. Ununderstandable.
it goes hand in hand, with this strategic idea of containment. Let's contain Russia. Let's contain China. If you want to contain, you need to build walls, right? And that's the approach of the people who want this forceful policy. Georgia now says, like, and your party says, no, we're not going to play along in that. We want to connect, not fend off.
Of course, of course.
How
Main idea is to, as I already told to you, to make our region and the center of our region, Georgia, the place of cooperation,
Mm.
not the fight and of clash of interests or clash of civilizations. No, the
Can,
place of cooperation and the place of to playing the role of regent corridor, peaceful
can
place.
you? There are some people who argue, but Georgia was already invaded by Russia. It already had a war with Russia, and it's currently being occupied. Parts of it are being occupied by Russia. How do you think that a neutrality policy can help resolve that conflict?
Because first of all, we cannot do this with the force. It's impossible. Georgia is not such a country to regain its, territorial integrity and sovereignty with the force.
Hmm.
It's a fact. And, fact in real politics is, very difficult to overcome
Yes, yes.
in every politics, especially in real politics. And I'm strong follower of real politics, by the way, from the period where I begin to study international relations, foreign relations. And so, if not the force, then what is the way? Then, of course, the way was peaceful way of negotiations, peaceful way to develop contacts, pragmatic contacts with the neighbors, with other countries. The time will come, of course, we hope, that we will have this possibility also with Russia. Now it's impossible because Russia is not changing its policy. Russia is not changing, this announcement of the independence of Abkhazia and so named South Ossetia. This is the first of all, the main Russia to take it back. I think with the policy of neutrality and pragmatic policy of cooperation with the superpowers and neighbor countries, this is the way to change this kind of approach of Russia in future. It will be not soon, we understand this, but we hope that by and by, with this kind of policy, we will reach this.
I think that's a good strategy. It's a way of trying to assure Russia that Georgia will help to be a friend. So what would be the incentive to keep to keep an occupation going? But in general, like, can you tell me a little bit about what you think that the new party itself can achieve? Like, because I suppose that within Georgia you still need to also still communicate this strategy. I assume.
We will explain this strategy. Of course, it's the main to the people, not only in Tbilisi, but in our regions, and to the people what we want and how we want to reach our goals, of course. And I think the situation which is now around us, I mean the war in Ukraine, which is very difficult, very difficult. The time shows and everything shows that it's very difficult to reach peace there.
Yes.
And, there are some moments which are closely connected to Georgia because Europeans, it's not secret, they wanted to have the second front here in Georgia because their behavior was like this. Because they want to sacrifice Georgians on the fronts and in the war, like they are doing this with Ukrainian, unfortunately, and to fight, to fight proxy war with Russia. And we did not do this, our government. And that's very good. We support this politics of our government. And we are continuing this politics with the policy of neutrality. We think that neutrality is more, will be more successful in our relations with the neighbors, even in the situation what's going on in Ukraine.
Why?
Even with the yes, please.
Sorry, it's like why is it that it seems that in Georgia this appreciation for the necessity of neutrality has arisen? It's you, but not on you. I mean, there's people around your party, but there's also people in Georgia Dream and so on who seem to have an awareness of the necessity of neutrality, whereas in Ukraine that failed. In Ukraine, it was the project to transform Ukraine into a proxy war was successful. Why? What do you think is the factor that helped Georgia to achieve this kind of change of mentality?
Because the people of Georgia has very deep, to say so, experience of conflicts and wars here during our history. And our people has the experience of this, beginning from our history and the near history, by the way, after regaining our independence. You know about the wars with Russia, you know about the conflicts there. So people understand the ways how to act and how to think during the conflicts. Much more, I think, because of the realities in our country and realities in our region. They understand this much more than deeper than in Ukraine, I think. And this was one the reason. And second reason was, of course, the politics of the government. Government was quite successful in this. Even the nowadays government in Georgia. And we agree with this policy. They are coming, and they are still announcing they are coming. The rest of Georgia as a state, Georgia as a sovereign country, and Georgian people. And of course, our approach is the same. But we think, I am repeating, that the policy of neutrality, that neutral Georgia, will be much more successful on this way than the country which is saying that we are still going to be the member of the, I don't know, very strange European Union. What will be in the future, nobody knows.
I think your position will only get stronger because right now it looks as if though the greatest threat to the integrity of a NATO country is another NATO country. It seems that the United States wants to take over Greenland. Do you think if that happens, that a NATO country basically takes away territory from another NATO country, do you think this will actually help your position to communicate why, as a position outside of a military alliance might be best?
First of all, I want to say that all events that are going in the global politics and in our nearby regions, it has its reflection in Georgia, of course, and situation in Georgia. It's for sure. It will be negative for us, I mean for Georgian neutrality and successful, development, or positive. It has its reflections, it reflects on us. So, of course, looking what's going on between United States and European Union. I think the policy of the new government of the United States, and ideas of our government now and of our party, in a lot of things, they are the same. What the Trump government is saying, we were saying this a little bit more time ago, and this is, I think, the ideology, and this is one thing. But practically, I think that the situation around the Greenland or other, some contradictions or some problems between United States and Europe, at last, they will not go to the, some kind of aggression or some kind of, bad, to say so, results. I think at last they will negotiate and they will reach some kind of agreement, even around the Greenland, I'm sure, because nobody in the West wants, the kind of conflict that goes very far.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to use the words your military conflict or war or something like this, But I think the Trump is successful in this, that he announced the kind of policy.
Mm.
Some are against, some are for, some like this, some not. But after some time, with the negotiations, he's reaching his goals, I think. Even
Yeah.
beginning with economic relations with the Mexico or Canada or some other countries, or in the situations where he's going to have some solutions of the conflicts in the world.
Right, and you are a good diplomat, so you, of course, you wouldn't try to offend whatever party, but we are going toward, even if it's no conflict, it is definitely coercive diplomacy that we are seeing.
I cannot speak other way. I am diplomat by my profession, and I'm speaking like diplomat.
How do you think Georgia can deal with coercive diplomacy when it comes? And the thing is, coercive diplomacy can come from Russia, it can come from the US, it can come from Europe. What's the most pragmatic way to deal when coercion comes at your doorstep?
Founding on reality. Pragmatism founded on reality. This is only way for the state or country like Georgia is. If you are not any government which was or is or will be in Georgia will act pragmatic, pragmacy founded on reality. Not this I want or that I want or I think this or I think that. Coming from reality. And the reality shows now that the pragmatic relations with all our neighbors and superpowers like China is from one side. By the way, when we are in the government is speaking that we have, the economic and trade agreements free trade from one side with the China, another side we're going to do this with the countries of the Near and Middle East and European countries, and to play the role of the bridge of the place of cooperation. That is, I think, pragmatic approach to play our role. I think if we will develop this, found it on the idea of neutrality, we will be more successful.
Are you going to try to enter parliament as a party in the next election? What are your goals as a political party in Georgia?
Yes, we are going to take part in elections. Elections, because if not, we will not announce. It was the political movement. Now it's party, and we registered as a political party. So the political force which registered as a party wants to take part in elections, of course, and to explain our approaches and our ideas to the people of Georgia and to have the supporters.
But is your goal, is your goal to replace Georgia Dream as a party, or is your goal to be basically to push Georgian Dream and other parties in the same direction? What's your approach?
It's early now, quite early to speak about this, to replace, but theoretically in the future, why not? It depends on the support from the population of Georgia. If our ideas will gain, some support of people and of our population, then why not? The time will show.
Time will certainly show. When are the next parliamentary elections actually in Georgia?
In 2028.
Okay, so you basically have a 2-year period now to prepare for distributing your arguments. And when it comes to the national level, like how does the foreign policy of neutrality connect with domestic political issues? How do you envision connecting these two?
Because the people, first of all, the people saw, Georgian people, how the kind of not only policymakers, but the states and countries of European Union wanted to use us, in this proxy war. And I think they understand this, and they saw this clearly. So this, first of all, and the situation which is now, shows to them that we need, as a country, a little bit different approaches, especially in this kind of situation in European Union. And we are proposing, we think, the different approach of our development and our policy. And this will, I think, work with the people and population of Georgia.
I do hope it will work as a foreign policy first and foremost. I also wish you a lot of luck with the political party.
Thank you.
Of course, a lot of work. Is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't covered yet?
We will have now soon the program. We already has, some the main points of our program, our party, and the people knows about this, and leaders of our party already talked about this. But by and by, this will include our program, all directions. I mean, the not only foreign policy, but the policy inside our economic policy also. And of course, very well that security, which I mentioned, of the country, it's not only military political security, it's economic security. It's, inside the economic security, energy security, it's information security, and inside the cyber security, it's cultural security. So if the country, the state, has not all these parts of security, then you cannot say that you have the kind of security which in perspective makes you possible to develop peacefully and successfully. So we are working on all these parts, and we will have this in our program of our party, of course, and the population will know about this, and we think we will have the support from them, because it will be founded, I will repeat this, on pragmatic approach founded on reality.
I find that a very, very important thing to found policy on. So please do send me the program once it is out. I will be also happy to speak about this again. After all, this is one of the perennial topics of this channel, and we will speak again in the future. Konstatin Zhgenti, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you.